Christos anesti. Christ is risen.
Truly he is risen.
Christos anesti.
Christos anesti.
Today we celebrate the righteous Job, as well as Saint Sophia Klissura. Saint Sophia, who is a modern-day saint for us, who lived at the Klissura monastery, is an advocate for us before the Mother of God, and a truly beautiful and wonderful fool for Christ, whose intercessions bring many miracles for those who are in need. Today, as we contemplate the righteous Job, we know that his story teaches us about patience and endurance. Foreseeing his faith in God and the wonderful things that God did to him, Satan said to the Lord our God, "He is only good to you because you do good things for him. Take those away and you'll see what kind of man he truly is." And God said, "Not so. His faith is beyond compare." And so he allowed Satan to test Job, to take away all of his rulings, all of his riches, all of his children, and his house in desolation, and filled his body with great sores. Job, who endured all of this, asked the Lord his God, why was he allowed to go through these horrible things? And the answer from God seems harsh at first, because God says to him, "Where were you when I weighed the universe on the scales? Where were you when I set the boundary for the sea? Where were you when I established all of creation?" Essentially telling Job, you don't see the big picture. You only see a little bit. It reminds me of a story that I heard once when somebody said, "How in the world can life make sense? There's so much chaos, there's so much terror, there's so much horror." And the person said, "Yes, but if you've ever looked at a beautiful tapestry, you'll see the beautiful image on the one side, but on the other side, you will see what amounts to chaos. Threads going every which way it seems, and yet they produce this beautiful picture on the other side." We don't see the big picture or understand why God sometimes allows us to go through these sufferings. And so the suffering of Job and his faith being revealed brings God to see to the devil, "You see, his faith was such that he did not abandon me, but showed himself to be my true son. And as such, Job was given back all of his riches and more than his riches, and lived to a ripe old age in happiness." But why do we see the book of Job, and why is it so important to us? After all, one of my chanters, Paraskava, asked me, how do we know that Job even existed? And I blithely replied to him, we don't. Because while there are historical context for Job, and we see his genealogy placed in the beginning of the book of Job, the reality is there is no mention of Job until the later centuries of Judaism. And the reason why this is significant is because we understood suffering from the book of Deuteronomy. And in the book of Deuteronomy, it seems very, very simple. If you do good deeds, God will reward you. If you do evil, God will punish you. This sort of, I hate to use the word, karmic understanding of morality was simple to understand, and so the Jews followed it. And so every single time the Jews fell into ruin and bad things happened to them, they could very clearly point to their own sin. They could look to their fallings and say, well, our leader fell into sin. We have not been fasting. We have not been doing as we ought. And so therefore God has abandoned us to our sin, and therefore his judgment is just and right. But there was a king named Josiah who was righteous, who was good. And he fell in battle on the field of Megiddo. And the Israelites wondered at this. How is this possible? How is this that a just king was seemingly abandoned by God? He did everything right. This doesn't add up to what happened. And as such, God has promised that Josiah will be vindicated on the field of Megiddo, which we know as Armageddon, where the last battle will be drawn to bring vindication to the righteous King Josiah, who was killed there. And so this question of the Israelites, why did this happen to King Josiah, some scholars say prompted the writing of the book of Job, in which Job did nothing evil, nothing wrong, to merit the sufferings that he went through, the endurance that he went through. And so we have two ideas of suffering, Deuterominical and Jobian, especially during this Pentecostarian period in which we are seeing the stories of John. This is very, very important to us, for soon we will hear the story of the man born blind, as well as the man paralyzed by the sheep pools of Bethesda, both who are suffering, but both for different reasons. One because of sin, one because God is using him to show his glory. But what is the takeaway, my beloved brothers and sisters in Christ? The takeaway and the importance of Job for us is to not look at someone suffering and look at that person and say, what sin did you do? What did you do that God brought this on you? And to understand that sometimes God has a bigger picture, and your glory will be revealed in the end. He will not give you more than you can handle, and he is with you throughout all of it. He will not abandon you, just as he did not abandon Job. Many of you know the story of Job and have heard the expression of Job, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. If we have this understanding with all of our goods and with all of our life, we will be a lot happier, understanding that what we have at any given moment is because of the glory of God. And even should he take it away, that is okay. That is his prerogative as God. But there's a line that my Old Testament professor, Father Eugene Penteuk, used to say that I feel is the heart of Job and a comfort to me. Even should he destroy me, it is him I am waiting for. In other words, even if God were responsible for the suffering that I endure, I don't care. He is the one that I want to be with. He is my light. He is my life. To be in his presence is life and light. And so therefore, even if I have to go into the depths of hell and suffer unimaginable horrors, if I'm with him, if I'm with my God, then I am truly in paradise. Christ is risen.
Truly he is risen.
Christos anesti.
Christos anesti.
Christ is risen.